plate says e-bike right above that noisy pipe. Riding down the avenue, dressed up in his best disguise. Motorcycle looking cool, but under that mask surprise. He's got a fake plate, says e-bike above his exhaust pipe. He's on a roll, unlicensed, uninsured. Everyone knows his show. Neighbors shaking heads in shock as he zooms past the red light. Helmet on and sunglasses, living that daredevil life. He's got a fake plate, says e-bike above his exhaust pipe. He's on a roll, unlicensed, uninsured. Everyone knows his show. Revving up his engine loud, trying to fool the whole town. But we all see right through that phony plastic crown. He's got a fake plate, says e-bike above his exhaust pipe. He's on a roll, unlicensed, uninsured. Everyone knows his show.
I'd like to listen to. I actually like that song. That's the fake plate e-bike song that I created this morning using the magical Suno AI. And the reason I'm playing it and the reason why the cover art for this particular episode is a guy on a motorcycle with a plate that says e-bike. It's because that's what I saw on the road. And I've been meaning to share it for a while. I actually got it when driving. A passenger recorded it, and it was amazing. It's shocking. It's shocking. But that's the magic of a motorcycle. Let me zoom in here. You probably can't make it out, but it says emo. It has an emo plastic plate on it. I got such a kick out of this. Not that they should be off the hook. They should absolutely be prosecuted. Because I'm going to guess that they don't have insurance on that particular vehicle. Yeah, is that better there? I think that's just shocking. As though the exhaust pipe just beside it isn't a hint. Anyway, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. I talk about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff every single day. And today we're doing it all over again because it's Groundhog Day. I talk about this stuff every day. It's no joke. If you don't already follow us, please do, regardless of what platform you're joining us on. And that could be one of a whole bunch because we're on all those. Granted, we are no longer able to, we're temporarily not able to broadcast on the Traffic Services channel right there on Twitter. Which reminds me, I did not retweet this, so I must retweet this. Hang on. I'm going to retweet this. I got to share the show. Wrong app. Hang on a second. All right. Here we go. We're going to... Here we go. Like and reshare. Yeah, that's the only thing I have to do now because I can broadcast it on VoiceOver Cop. I just can't put it on Traffic Services. But that simple sharing function works wonders. If you're watching us on X, please reshare, retweet, let other people see it. Really helps us out to get the message, to make us available, to help us engage, to educate, make safer and all that. If you didn't know, we download, then upload this as a podcast so you can synchronize it with your phone, listen to it offline without burning your data. And if you're listening to it while you drive without the screen on, like not watching it live on YouTube or TikTok, well, you're not breaking the law if you're listening to it in a podcast because that's audio only. It's the way things are meant to be consumed. So a number of hours after the show, you can synchronize. It's Apple Podcasts, iHeart Podcasts, Spotify, and a whole bunch of other places, probably wherever you get your podcasts. And where do you get your podcasts? Is it one of the places above, or is it something entirely different? Let us know in the comments. I would like to know. Now, we talk about Vision Zero enforcement team every single show, unless I totally forget, which has happened before, but today I remember. So let's talk about the fact that the Vision Zero enforcement team, which is made up of a group of officers who are dedicated to changing driver behavior one ticket at a time. You see, I do the education online. They do education through enforcement, because if you get a ticket, you're likely going to change your behavior. That doesn't work for everybody. Some people are really, really thick. But others, like me when I was a kid, changed their behavior immediately. Now, Big Four is what we focus on: speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and impaired driving. And we're doing that today in divisions that look like, well, 32 Division and 55 Division. Those are neighborhoods like Downsview, Willowdale, Newtonbrook, Bathurst Manor, the Beaches, Riverdale, Danforth, East York, neighborhoods where real people live, work, and play and deserve to be safe. That's it. That's the story. If you don't want a ticket, I suggest following the law. But then again, I suggest following the law all the time, regardless of whether or not we're there, because it's safer. It's the whole idea. I had this discussion with myself as I was getting ready for bed last night. Do you think that you would be a better driver, a safer driver, if you followed the simple rules of the road, or broke the rules but became very, very skilled? This is a debate, because so many people suggest that if they were to only, I don't know, go to a track or take some courses, that they could justify being faster, not following the law. And I think that's a flaw. I think it's a flawed concept. I think that you can be a great racer. You can be a great track person. The track is where everyone goes one way. There's no pedestrians. There's no dogs, no children, no bicycles, it's a track. And everyone there is proficient, or at least you hope they are. I did see an article recently of someone who was very wealthy, wanted to be a race car driver, and kept crashing and never making it through like turn one. That's a special situation. I appreciate that there are some amazing drivers out there, but you're driving in a mixed environment and with other drivers who aren't so good. So I think that following the rules of the road, personally, are the way to do it. It is the way to do it, and everyone should do it. Not speeding, doing the right thing. I put it up on screen earlier, but Akela Draconis says, greetings and salutations. Shocking. He does that every time he comes in here. And I'm not suggesting he change it. I actually quite like the fact that we have consistency. Others have adopted other things, like Chase. He says other stuff. You'll see if he pops in. Okay, I've got some dad jokes that I've flagged for later. Brandon says, good morning, Sean. The answer to yesterday's question, I was making smoked brisket. Let's all have a wonderful day. You are all amazing. Thank you very much, Brandon. Now I really want smoked. I like Montreal smoked meat. My favorite thing. Yes. Even more than raspberry-filled jelly donuts, specifically from Krispy Kreme, I must remind. Although I must say that I very rarely partake in donuts. Paul says, good morning, Sean. Thank you for your service. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate the thank you. And my service is all online right now, but I appreciate the appreciation. Stephen Bell says, good morning. Stephen, it's been a while since I've seen you. I hope you're doing well. You're out in London way. And Julie says, good morning, Sean, and everyone out there. Thank you, Julie. Carl Freeman says, good morning. Chase, see, I knew Chase wouldn't miss us with his good morrow. Good morrow to you, too. And Chase points out that we're almost 3,500 on YouTube. Yes, indeed. It's funny. We have 668,000.7 or something like that on TikTok, which is absolutely amazing. But the growth on YouTube takes a lot longer, but the engagement is very, very different. That said, if you're watching on YouTube, please follow us, because we know that a lot of people consume our content on YouTube, but not everybody follows. That would be cool if more people did. Just because, we'd like to see 600,000 people on YouTube, because why not? And hey, if you're watching us on TikTok, know that you can follow us on YouTube too. You're allowed. You can also watch all the replays of all these live streams on YouTube. So if you miss something, you want to watch it, or you want to, play it and fast forward, because that's what some people do when they miss pieces. They want to catch the stuff that they haven't seen before and skip the stuff that they know. And another interesting thing, I hope you'll appreciate this. We have so many amazing regulars on this channel. So as you know, Star Wars cop Peter DeQuintal is now at Traffic Services working with me in programs, and he's been helping out as one of the moderators, because we have two. Peter's not here today, but the unnamed moderator, I don't know if names should be shared on air, is here, and we appreciate them. But what Peter, who is brand new to Traffic Services, and as a moderator, said, there's some people who really like go at it in the comments and answer questions, and they know their stuff. Like, he was shocked that so many people like Tracy and Emma are in there answering questions that others have to try and help out, and I really appreciate you guys. And he was just he didn't know, he wasn't expecting you, so he's like, who are these people? How do they know so much? Uh, so a big thank you to all those who unofficially co-produce and help answer questions in the chat. I know it's frustrating for some. Many people who get answers from Tracy and others say, but I wanted him to answer it. You know what? I'll try and get to your questions too. I try and get to everybody's. But if Tracy or Emma or Michael or Kayla come back with an answer, you know that they're here a lot and they're learning and have learned so much. They share that knowledge and they're part of the community. So thank you very much. If you're not already in the Telegram group, we have a Telegram group with 20 some odd people in it that are hardcore regulars and we chat and share jokes and silliness. So if you want to join Telegram, telegram.TrafficCop.ca. And of course, TrafficCop.ca brings you to all of our links to all of our socials, both mine and the services, and useful links to stuff and things that I think is worthy of sharing on a regular basis. So if you want to know stuff, that's a good place to do it. Big Jeff Fresh says good morning. Tracy says good morning. Big Dame says, let's see here. Here. What is the legal percentage of tint you can put on your car? Interesting question. Never heard that one before. A lot of people ask that question. So, and it's funny, we also had a really heavy conversation about this at the Indy because it was a sunny day and people were asking about sunny stuff. The answer to your question is, for certification purposes, 30%. But here's the big thing. 30% light blockage means 70% of the light has to get through. And most people go there and ask for 30% and get 30% of the light getting through, meaning 70% blockage. And that's not legal at all. In fact, you can't certify a vehicle or should not be able to certify a vehicle with more than 30% light blockage. So you can lose your license plates. We can seize your license plates and force you to get another certification once it's been done correctly. But even if you have that 30% and you do get certified legally, could you still get tickets for tint? Yes, because atmospheric conditions. It's a dark day. It's a dark night. We can't see in. We can't identify the driver by way of description. Not, I know it's Bob because it looks like Bob. I mean, like some level of description. We can't see if you're wearing your seatbelt. If we can't make these observations through your window, well, it's too dark. Now, my favorite test is if you take your driver's license and put it up to your glass, and if you can clearly read that, it's probably okay, but that's not inaccurate, just sort of the way that I judge it myself. If I can't see you, it's a problem. Hopefully that helps you. If you need more, please let me know. We got here. Oh, here's a good one. Is it true someone got pulled over for doing 240 on the 401 yesterday? Let's see. I did get a message. What did my message say? Boop, doop, doo. I meant to flag it for later. In fact, I meant to share it on social media, and obviously I need to share that. Yeah. That would be the display of the laser device that was used to measure. And what's the notes I got here? A motorcycle. And oddly enough, the officer who caught that person last night caught that person, the same person, a year before. Isn't that magical? So yeah, somebody got done for 240 yesterday, and I don't know if they were on the 401 or not because the location of that stop wasn't there, but oddly enough, it matches what you shared with me, so I'm going to assume it's the same person. But then there's a lot of people who break the law. Could be somebody else. Do we need front plates? Need is a funny word. Does anyone need anything? According to law, the answer would be yes. You must have, if you are an Ontario registered vehicle, a front and a rear plate if you want to drive here lawfully without getting tickets at the rate of $110, because that's what we'd lay. Failing to display two plates, if you're registered here, is $110. If you are from BC and you drove here and you were only issued one plate, because I'm pretty sure BC is a rear plate only, then you don't have to have it while you're visiting here. But if you do decide to become a resident of Ontario, then you have to register and find a way to mount your front plate. It's a thing. Okay. Hey. Sergeant Campbell is joining us today. We were just talking about front plates. Before that, we were asked if somebody got a ticket for 240 kilometers an hour. And oddly enough, somebody sent me this picture last night.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well,
That's ridiculous.
This is ridiculous, but the best is motorcycle got this guy last year for stunt 2. Same guy, same officer, catches the same person doing the same thing. Maybe the speeds were different, but that's shocking. They did not learn.
I'm surprised they're out there driving.
Yeah, because if they were convicted, they would have been a 3-year suspension.
That's correct. Yeah. So maybe he was convicted, and maybe he doesn't have a driver's license.
I look
And I
forward to
only
knowing
say
more.
he because
Odds are.
yes.
We've got, let's see here. Oh, Rahatul. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I apologize if I didn't. I want to be your coworker one day. Right now, training to achieve that fitness. I hope that you make it too. We're hiring good people. We're looking for people to join this job. And police services across the planet are looking for good people to do this job. So I wish you the best of luck in that process. It is a competitive process. It's a lot of work. But it's very worthwhile.
It is. It's a good job. It really is. There's so much you can do within one job. There is so many different variables that you can get into. It's amazing. You don't have to actually leave here to go do something completely different. You can do that all under one pension too.
Yes. I've had the joy of being a volunteer with the service, a paid member as a court officer. Actually, both of us have had that opportunity. I went from court officer to court supervisor. I became a police constable. I've worked in divisions. I've worked in then came to traffic. Like you can't get bored here.
Nope, you definitely can't. And if you are, you can move around and find your happy place. We have that opportunity. I've been in uniform for quite a bit, investigated for quite a bit. I've done undercover before. I have landed at traffic, and I really enjoy it. I'm a car. I'm a vehicle. I'm a mechanical kind of guy. So I came down here and I found my niche, and I love going in and investigating collisions and finding out root causes. And now I deal with tow trucks and vehicle towing. I want to keep everybody on the straight and narrow. I want to keep everybody, getting treated fairly. So that's what I do.
And
Plus, I get to come here and hang out with you.
Well, there you go. That we both get to have fun. It's great when you find people you like to work with, because not everybody is so lucky. So I'm very lucky. When we talk about
I was going to say,
people,
you found somebody?
yeah, most of the time. The deal with becoming a member of the police service and finding things you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work anymore. It's something you enjoy and look forward to. If you'd like to check out employment opportunities, go to www.tps.ca/careers. And all the information about the jobs is listed here. Even the auxiliary position that I started in, on the right-hand side, you'll see the link for that. The only position in civilian roles that was posted yesterday was communications operator. Let's see if anything else is posted. Boom,
Communications
boom, boom.
operators are the backbone of the service.
Truly.
Nothing happens without them.
And this particular position was posted January 30th, so it's been open the whole time, it looks like, and they're continuously taking applications, as we are also doing for the position of police constable. So if you know somebody who's interested in one of these jobs, let them know. They don't stay open. In fact, very often we fill up and then we go into a freeze situation. I don't foresee that happening anytime soon, but you never know. So if you're on the fence, if you're thinking about it, don't think too long. Make the change. Yeah. It's great. 24 years. How long have you been with the service now?
I'm just coming up in 29.
29. And then we see people who get to retire and have fun in their post-work life. Something that many people don't realize or appreciate is pensions.
Yep. My pension is a little bit different. I've actually been here over 29 years, but like you, I started part-time. And my part-time hours has to get calculated into full-time hours to figure out my prorated retirement date.
They squish it.
So they do squish it into a 40-hour work week. So
Yes, we got squished.
just makes it fair.
Yeah. We got here. We got Angie, who says, "Good morning, happy Wednesday, Montreal smoked meat. Love what you do, thank you." The Montreal smoked meat is because Brandon is. Did I say Brandon? Wait. Yeah, it is Brandon. Is smoking a brisket in the catering business. So now I think that I know what lunch should be.
Yes, we actually have a grocery store very close to us that makes very good Montreal smoked
It's
meat.
a great deal. It's like $6 with a pop or something like that.
Yeah, it is. That's why we look the way we look, because Montreal smoked meat is close.
It is. That is entirely that. Montreal. Okay. It's actually. Have you been to to Montreal to have Montreal smoked meat in Montreal?
I have, and bagels.
Yeah, bagels are good there too. They do a lot of good stuff there. Okay. What is this?
Driving?
Jacob
Ooh,
says
scary.
in Montreal.
Oh my
It's
goodness,
very
yes.
different. Yes, not everything is perfect there. How come the other day a patrol car sped past me with red no what? With light
no lights.
Okay, I guess we can interpret that. While I was already doing 10 over in a 60.
So first of all, don't do 10 over.
10 over illegal, bad.
Second of all, we're allowed to speed. And we don't need our lights going. In fact, sometimes we can get to where we're going faster, easier, and safer if we don't put the lights and siren on.
People think that is a lie or an excuse. They don't get it. They've never done
I
it.
think it's probably comes from the movies or something like that. I have seen some people do some pretty, I'm going to say, stupid things in front of me as I'm trying to get somewhere that has nothing to do with them. I just want them to move out of the way so I can get past and go save somebody that is calling for our assistance. And I've had people jam on the brakes right in the middle of the Highway 401, which is 100 kilometer an hour maximum multi-lane highway. Just stop right in the middle.
Well, that happened.
And what do you do?
I was offsite for a meeting this morning, as were you, and we took different vehicles. On the way back, an ambulance was coming across Lakeshore, and green light. Everyone's pulling over. One car stops in lane one. So the ambulance gets right behind them, and it's not like you would assume that they were being pulled over. Just didn't know what to do, froze.
Yep.
That's a situation where just letting people drive would have actually had them move faster.
And that's probably the situation you came across, Jacob, is the officer has determined that this is not a 100% ultra have to get there fast. But I need to get there faster than sitting at, in regular traffic.
Mm-hmm.
And we're allowed to do that. Plus, you shouldn't be doing 10 over.
I will say that people think that they can get away with it, and they think that it's acceptable because they haven't been pulled over yet. So, Jacob, it's just a matter of time, unfortunately. You might find yourself getting pulled over for 10 over. And it depends on what zone you're in. You said you were in a 60. So 70 and a 60, if there's people going faster, maybe you're going to be lucky that day. But two things might happen. One, you might become involved in a collision. If it's serious, we have this machine. Well, I shouldn't say it's a machine. There are ways of determining what the speed was at the time of a collision. So if you were to have hit somebody, maybe a pedestrian crossing, it's going to look really, really bad when we see you were speeding.
Yep.
Because that's a contributing factor. Formula One Fan 24 says, hey back. And we've got Dean. I'm not going to mess up your last name because I'm not going to try. But I really want to try.
Depensier?
Oh, actually, I wasn't going to.
Maybe.
I'm hoping that's right. Dean, let us know if that was right. Can you exit at a red on a road highway?
I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
Do you mean like make a right turn on a red light? Because that would be a yes. If it's safe to do so, if it's not prohibited by sign, if you've come to a complete stop. But I don't exactly understand what you're asking, so maybe you can rephrase that. Can I take my road test a day after my G2 expires? That would be up to, well, first of all, you'd be unlicensed.
So if your G2 is expired, you're not licensed at all.
Mm-hmm.
They would not probably let you take your test.
But they could extend it. And I say they could because I've been told, not that I've confirmed, but I've been told that if you go there and there's no dates available and you're expiring, which means you've left it really long, you go there in advance when you're booking it, that they could expand it based on the test booking. Mm-hmm. Now, that's a different story. That's them giving you that opportunity. That's not us giving you that opportunity.
Right. And that would be Drive Test contacting the Ministry of Transportation to be able to extend that.
Right.
Because it's the Ministry of Transportation that controls our driver's licenses and the classes of them. But Drive Test Ontario is a private company that conducts all the tests. So their booking may be different from what the ministry, and they would have to communicate back and forth with themselves.
Absolutely. We got this one. Let's see here. Do speed cameras go against your record and insurance?
They go against your pocketbook.
Yes, it's a financial fine, but there is no impact on your license. It's issued to the registered owner. And that means if you don't pay it, because the owner, who may or may not have been the driver, is charged, you can't renew your license unless you, not sorry, you cannot renew your license plate.
Right. It is an owner liability offense only, unless you were caught speeding by a police officer at the time, where we'd be able to identify the driver, then the driver would get the ticket.
And it's different in different jurisdictions. This is what it is in Ontario. In other provinces, it may be different. It might go against the driver because in Australia and in England, they issue a ticket to the registered owner, but it impacts their license and they can nominate somebody else to take the heat. So if they said little Bobby was driving the car, little Bobby can be nominated to be the person who took the ticket.
So the owner gets it unless the owner gives up who was actually driving the vehicle.
And you would hope that the owner would know who that person is.
You'd hope.
Would it be possible to get an officer from the Marine unit? Like for the show, we could invite an officer from the Marine unit.
Yeah.
I think that would be
Actually, it'd be a
interesting.
great idea, especially summertime. It would be very topical.
Yeah, we talked about it, and actually at one point we had Sergeant Kulik, who was in our office and was a Marine unit officer prior to coming to Traffic Services, so she fit that bill. So we technically had an officer from the Marine unit before, but we should definitely do that again, and thanks
Brandon,
for the
you know what?
suggestion.
I'm going to look into that.
Cool. Do tourists need to carry their driving license and passport or just driver's license when driving? Well, that's a very good question. They need to have a driver's license that is readable, that is in English, that we can read. So that means that in some cases they need an international driving permit, which is really just a translation card. But do they need to have their passport?
So what I'm going to suggest to you is that you have a license from another jurisdiction. We don't have immediate access to ensure the validity of it. Plus, there may be some question as to identity when you're here because we can't check it ourselves through our regular means. If you want to make the process smoother, first of all, don't get pulled over by doing something wrong. But if you want to make the process smoother, if you carry a secondary piece of identification and it matches up with your date of entry and things like that, I think it would make the process much smoother. And you may actually, I don't know, reap more benefit from making that smoother.
Make our lives easier. It pays tenfold in that sense. You know, if we have to do a lot of work, it's you might find people just taking time. And anyway, I think it's a good thing.
I have had people provide me with driver's licenses from other countries when they actually do live here. And they do that to try and escape the liability of it. They do it to try and, confuse or...
Well, you erase some doubt because you mentioned a very good point, the date of entry. If you are here on an extended period of time, you're not eligible to continue using your driver's license. So if you want to show that you're currently a visitor and here, look, I just entered the country now, that helps us along the way. We have a lot of legwork to do to confirm that you're not using it lawfully, but we will go down that route to ensure that you're doing it lawfully, which means we're going to do our homework. You're going to be there for a while. So you take a lot of the guesswork out of it by giving us all that information up front. If you move here and you're here as a resident, once you become a resident status, you rent a home or a place to live, you have 30 days to register a vehicle. If you own a vehicle or if you brought your vehicle with you, you have 60 days to use a driver's license from somewhere else. At the end of that 60 days, you must have applied for a local license, and whatever that local license is what you've got. So if you had a G1, because wherever you're from isn't eligible for a direct trade, you've got a G1, you need to have someone supervising you. So it's really important, and I think it's a great idea to bring your passport.
Yep, it simplifies the process down for everybody involved. And if you're doing things right, that's maybe what you want to do. If you're doing things wrong, well, we're going to sit there for a while and we're going to investigate and we're going to find the answers. So
True.
it may slow you down.
And so many times, you mentioned it again, like that some people will try and pull one over on us by giving us a license from somewhere else. And once we figure out who you are, and we will go through those steps, it's not just oh, you have a license, thanks for stopping by. We're going to investigate. That's what we do. F30RS says, I wrap my car. Is it necessary to change the color? And I think what you mean is apply for an updated ownership.
Yep.
Yes. Very rarely are people changing their displacement to the number of cylinders, which would also require an update. But color is an absolute requirement. You have 6 days after making the change.
Yes, and that helps identify your vehicle a little bit easier. It is a ticket, and it costs nothing. Costs nothing to do.
And as you said, it's one of those things that prevents you from getting pulled over a lot. You may not have said it exactly that way, but I think you were alluding to it. If we see a car that is registered, and we're running license plates all the time, we see it registered as red, but it's blue, that might be a stolen license plate. That's a reason to investigate.
Or a license plate that's stolen that hasn't been reported yet, we will start that investigation. And if your vehicle is wrapped and we open the door and we see it's actually red, that may bring the tension down a little bit. But we spend an awful lot of time and effort here to try and investigate that. You may be eligible for a ticket.
$110, not worth your time, not worth your effort for a quick change that would make your life
That's
easier.
free.
Colton says, what are the regulations for ride height, ground clearance for cars? So there's a whole bunch of stuff in play, but the average officer is going to simply be looking for contact with your tire and your frame or tire and body at lock to lock, and with compressed suspension to make sure, A, that suspension is functioning and that there's no contact. And we're looking for evidence of that on the tires more often than not. Is there an absolute minimum? Well, there are cars that are built to be nearly on the ground, and they're lawful.
Yep.
It's when people are making modifications, and it's not. Like, you take a vehicle that was manufactured by a company who spent millions and millions of dollars to ensure that vehicle rides just right, the way it was intended to by the designers, and then people go off and change things and muck it up.
What about a maximum ride height?
Well, there's also issues with that. And what I thought was most interesting, and I've really not gone down the road because I've not been on the road since I found out about this, but there's a minimum and maximum ride height for the center of headlight to the ground. And that aside from suspension, aside from everything, simply the center of your headlights to the ground, if you're below or above, you're outside of the game and you're not safe for the road.
Doing modifications the improper way also could lead you into a unsafe vehicle situation. When I was in high school, a truck body lift was done using hockey pucks.
Really?
Is that safe? No, but that's kind of what happened back then.
There were a lot of things that happened. And now you can't transfer a vehicle if you have those modifications. Like, a lot of people will modify a vehicle. They've safetied it. It's on the road. They do it. No one looks, think they're okay. They go to sell it. They have to undo what they've done to be able to transfer it because you can't transfer it in that state. And the only reason that they're even on the road is because they haven't been caught yet. Right. Question from Emmer. I think that's we're going to go with that pronunciation. Can I use my wife's accessibility permit if I have one as well, but I forgot it? Well, no. Yours is yours. You can use yours. Your wife, if with you, you can use it together as long as she's in the motor vehicle whilst you're parking. And I'm going to say that because when you are pulled over, you're going to have to show that permit. They're not going to run through the database to find out if you have one issued to you. You're going to present that document. If it's not in your name, you're going to have it seized, and then your wife is going to have to apply for a new one.
Right, and explain why she had it seized.
And you may find at the end of your process that you're okay. But at the time, your life is going to be, well, less happy.
Well, your wife's life is going to be less happy. And you know what? The reason for doing this, and you should understand this if you actually have an accessibility permit that is legitimate, it makes it easier for everybody if you play by the rules and everybody has equal access to the assistance that they require by parking closer. If you're using somebody else's permit and think you can get away with it, well, what if, somebody else wants to use somebody else's permit, their neighbor's permit? Somebody that is very able-bodied should not be actually doing it. So if we all follow the rules, it leaves more spaces available for people that really do need it.
And, if you are injured, if you've had a procedure, if you have a temporary issue, and it is a legitimate issue, go to your doctor, get one issued to you. You can get a temporary 1 month, 2 month permit. It's entirely legitimate. And if it's something that's long-term, they're going to give you a long-term one. But when people abuse them, borrow them, steal them, make reproductions, it's a problem, truly. Let's see here. We've got a question. Could you please elaborate on the rules for the yellow light? Oddly enough, I've been honked before for following the rule, only one vehicle in the intersection and not tailgating on a yellow to red. And then it continues. There might be a question 2 portion that I don't have here, but we'll go back to that one after. It's a separate question. So in terms of yellow lights, yellow means stop.
Yellow means stop?
It does, unless it's unsafe to do so. And people think that yellow is often go faster. So it's a deal. that people misunderstand, and I get it. It's not just a warning that it's about to turn red when you have to stop. It's stop if it's safe to do so. The one vehicle into the intersection rule I'm unfamiliar with. See, you're not supposed to enter the intersection unless you have a place to go to on the other side. So if you're in stopped traffic, which may be what you're talking about, you should not be entering on the yellow unless there's a space for you on the other side. And again, you couldn't stop safely.
I'm not sure the yellow light is in question number 2. I think it's 2 separate questions. So can you enter an intersection while waiting, or is there a rule that says 1 car only?
There's no rule that I'm familiar with that specifically lists how many cars can be in the intersection.
It all depends on the intersection and
depends.
its size.
And if it's a green light and you enter and then it turns yellow, is different than if it's yellow and you decide to enter.
Yes.
When you could, so if you were stopped in stop and go traffic and it turns yellow and then you decide to put your vehicle into motion and go through, was that right? Well, you should not have entered. You should not have moved your vehicle. So it sounds really confusing when we break it down into all this nuanced, what if. But yellow means stop, and if you're already stopped, it obviously does not mean go. Green is the only one that's an invitation. And even on a green light, you should wait until there's somewhere for you to go, because oddly enough, people enter the intersection, get stuck in it. It turns yellow, it turns red. Now you're blocking the box and you get a ticket for it. So it's simple and yet confusing for many.
A lot of people believe it's it's about to turn red, speed up and go faster.
And that's when bad things happen.
And that's great evidence to give in court. I was sitting there, the light went amber. I watched this vehicle approach and then speed up. I heard its engine rev and went through the amber light.
Just before it hit the car that was turning. And very often the question is, well, whose fault is it if someone turns in front of me when I'm running a yellow light?
Right.
Well, both, because the person who turned had to ensure they could make their
safely.
turn safely, and you were supposed to stop and you didn't. So you all eat a ticket. And
So I have 2 pieces of paper, one for
You
unsafe
and
left
one-
turn and one for going through the amber light.
So I think we've covered 2 out of the 3, and then 3 is many people have told me speed limit plus 10% is the norm on the highways. I know it's illegal, but everyone seems to be doing it. Is that actually a norm? So let's.
Actually,
It is a norm. People do it here. Other provinces.
here. Other provinces, I just came back from the East Coast. Things are different there. The norm is to do the speed limit, and people do the speed limit, and nobody goes faster than the speed limit. Occasionally, some people do.
But norm does not mean legal. Norm means lots of people break the law or don't break the law. And we have normalized lawbreakers here. We have a lot of violators who think 10%, 20% isn't a big deal. It is. It is when it comes to collisions and the cause. It's a causal factor to collisions. It increases your odds of becoming involved in a collision. It increases the amount of damage and injury in a collision when it happens. It's not smart. It's not legal. You shouldn't do it. And people say, well, it's unsafe to do the speed limit, which is ridiculous. But I understand the thought process. There's so many people breaking the law that it's unsafe because those people make it unsafe. So really everyone should slow down. But if you want to do the right thing, and you should be doing the right thing, stay to the right. Let the people who are being less safe and speeding pass you on the left. That's it. If you have more questions about that, please feel free. We're happy to chat about them again. But I like this question. Are Sur-Ron illegal now? Sur-Ron happens to be a brand name that makes electric motorcycles, some of which have pedals. And many of them are being sold, and people are being told that they're lawful on our roads. And they've never been lawful on our roads. These things can do 80 kilometers an hour without blinking. They're very powerful. They have batteries that are 12,000 megawatts or something to that effect, whereas you're only allowed to have a 500-watt motor peak. So these are totally illegal and always have been, as far as I can tell.
12,000 megawatts?
Gigawatts.
Not 1.21 gigawatts?
Yeah, well, we're trying to time travel. But I will say these are very cool, cool bicycles.
I like them. I've looked them up. I think they're really cool.
And for private property, awesome.
Yes.
But not on our roads. And, I think what we're going to find, well, actually, I guarantee you, this is simply a matter of time where the laws will catch up to mustard.
Sorry, squirreled.
It's okay. Yeah, the laws will catch up, and things will be clearly identified in the impact of driving these. Because right now, if the officer identifies it by seeing it as a Sur-Ron and understands what it is, you might get pulled over. You might not. If we catch you doing this, speed limits over 32 kilometers an hour, which is the legal maximum permitted for an e-bike to operate and be considered an e-bike, Well, and that's not by just not twisting your wrist past 32. It can't be capable of going faster.
Right.
And
500 watt motor in there.
and chances are 500 watts not going to take you much above 32.
No.
And, well, we see bikes that are 1,000 and plus watt. And under the pilot project, cargo e-bikes are allowed to have up to 1,000 watts. So there's a lot of different stuff going on. A lot of people modifying them.
I have a feeling what's going to happen is we're going to have to, the government say enough's enough. There's so many of these out here that there's so many crashes of these and it's so dangerous. We're going to have to license them. We're going to have to insure them. We're going to have to, and then the benefit for having this exemption
Is reduced.
is going to be gone.
Yeah. Well, no,
We're going to do it. Society is going to do it to themselves. Just like the automobile. When the automobile first came out, it wasn't licensed, it wasn't registered, it wasn't insured. But eventually, because of people's actions, behaviors, and the vehicles that are out there, the government said, whoa, this is way too dangerous. We have to make changes here to control and regulate this.
what would the first car do? Like 5 miles an hour? Like it was not. It was horsepower. We did what horses did.
Well, yes.
Let's see here. What's your opinion on takeovers? Well, they're illegal and stupid and shouldn't happen. I saw a video on TikTok this morning. I was showing Sean, a different Sean, the video, and someone had, I guess, a camera. It was a camera photographer. That's what they call those camera people. And the car that was sliding in a drift turn came so close to the photographer, it knocked the lens off the camera. Like
Yeah, that sounds safe.
yeah, so that was inches away from someone being hit. So they're really stupid, and they're really illegal. And not only is it a stunt driving offense that you could be looking at, but you could be looking at criminal charges, criminal dangerous driving.
Including the organizers of these.
Oh yeah, and bylaw offenses, especially in New York region. Toronto hasn't caught up yet. They're charging. They have fines up to $10,000 for simply organizing one of these events on private property. Never mind public property.
Now, takeovers are completely different from car meets.
Car meets are
Where
just
you just go and sit, talk about your car, show off your car, be proud of what you've achieved in your build or things like that. Takeovers, something totally different.
truly.
Takeovers are the anarchy of car shows.
They're takeovers. It's without permission, without they're occupying space and doing stuff that is not permitted and without consent. But even if they have consent, you can't do it because of takeovers. All these stunt laws were modified to include private property. So if you're upset that you can't do donuts on private property, welcome and thank you to the takeover community who broke the law and thus made a law.
And I got to tell you, as a member of society, not as a police officer, I don't appreciate them either.
No, it's noisy and they ruin stuff
And smoke and damage and people and blocking roads and
and the fact that people actually get hurt. That's a big thing, which then costs tax dollars and spent on medical stuff. It just cascades into all sorts of other things. Do you need your CPR and all certificates before you apply? This is for employment.
You got to apply there?
And
I
apply.
got an appy.
An appy? Well, the deal is, you need to have the minimum requirements have to be met before you can submit an application. So, first aid is one of those. Go to our website, tps.ca/careers, and you get all the information of what's required. What do you think about all the mini bikes on the beach walk? What mini bikes on the beach walk? Are people taking, like, mini bike to me is a gasoline powered bike.
Yep.
Miniature, small.
So in the city of Toronto, they're not allowed on, I think you're talking about the boardwalk down by the beaches community.
I'm going to assume that was
Yeah. There is a bylaw against it. I believe it's $500 fine.
any park can't have gas powered motors in it.
Yep.
Even e-bikes are. So pedelecs are permitted on multi-use trails. Pedelecs are e-bikes that look like
No, they're
bicycles.
bicycles. Yeah, they're bicycles.
They look like
that
bicycles
has
and they
a
have
system.
motors.
Yeah.
Have electric motors and conform. They're under 40 kilos. Like there's very specific things that qualify them to be allowed to be even in parks. E-bikes that are throttle controlled or more than 40 kilos, they look like more like motorcycles in style or scooters. They're not allowed in parks at all. And you can be charged for trespassing. You can be charged for bylaws for speed at 20-kilometer-an-hour speed limit for anyone, even if you're on roller skates. Like people don't understand the deal with the rules, and they get
And the bicycles that have been modified, putting a gas motor on,
motorcycles.
that's 100% a motorcycle.
Yeah,
And guess what? It doesn't matter where you are, you're getting fined for it. If you happen to be on the roadway, there's the insurance fine right there that's going to take you out of commission for a while paying that off. $5,000 to $25,000 and a possibility of jail time.
Which I think is, I don't think we can put enough people in jail. I think it's an unpopular opinion, but I think that we have all these rules, and I very rarely see people or the bench ever issue anything above the minimum. Very rare. It does happen, but very rarely. Most people get away with it until they work their way up through the channel. But maybe if it's egregious, they should just give someone like the max.
Yeah, but you know what? A $5,000 fine first offense. Get a couple of those.
They stack
That's
up.
enough to.
Not to mention that the fact that, well, this is insurance, so that's one thing. But stunt, you start losing your vehicle, your license for 1 to 3 years, 3 to 10 years on the second offense. That's written in a way that sort of more aligns with the way I think it should be handled. Hey, man, any tips for the recruitment interview? So employment interview, because the recruiting interview, we're doing this right now. We're answering your questions. Telling you that Toronto's the best place to work. But the actual employment interview, be honest. That's the biggest thing. Be open and honest. We're going to find out stuff, and if we determine that you were hiding things from us, that doesn't look very good. Deceit.
Actually, we don't want people that hide stuff from us ever.
Yeah.
Or in court, or from the public, or anything like that. So, just like any other interview, make yourself the best person you can. Make yourself appear to be the best person by holding yourself confident, positively showing yourself, just like we want you to do when you put the uniform on and step out into the public. Be confident, be positive, show yourself in good light.
And that doesn't mean that if you've done something or had some brushes with the law, you tried drugs when you were in high school, like if you did something wrong, own it, disclose it, because if we find out, you were lying to us.
Right.
So I remember I went long time ago. A friend of mine was with the OPP as an auxiliary or as a co-op student. And he put me in touch with the guy that he was working with when he was a co-op student. And I went and spoke to him because I was, at that time, was 17 and I wanted to become a police officer. So I went to Aurora Detachment, had a chat with him. And he said, "Have you ever done drugs?" And I said, "No." He says, "Come on, you can tell me." I'm like, "But I've never done drugs. I've never done drugs." And he says, "It's okay, you can tell me," because he was just trying to tell me to be honest, and I get it now. But yeah, so even if you are honest, it's hard to believe now. Everyone's apparently tried stuff. Randy says, "Good morning, Sean and Sergeant Campbell. Always nice to have the knowledge duo on board." That's a new nickname.
The knowledge duo.
We could have a spin-off show. Let's see.
Thank you. Thanks for your comments.
Thanks for saying hey. Okay, when are you allowed to enter an HOV lane to turn right? So this is specifically to not on the highway. This is on, well, a highway, but not a restricted access or 400 series. We're talking about like Dufferin. Dufferin has a bus lane on the right side, and to make a right lane, you need to be able to enter that. Or make a right turn, not a right lane.
Make a right lane?
If you
already made the right lane.
If you make right lanes, you're in a different business. So you can enter it, I would say, before without crossing an intersection. So if you are upcoming to a right turn, you're planning ahead, there's no specific distance that you can travel that I'm aware of. But if you were to cross an intersection, that's where I personally would say, you're not using this lane properly.
If you pass more than one intersection.
Yeah, that's my thing.
If you're making a right turn at the third one up there and you enter it to get past people and then make a right, yeah, I would agree with you. I do believe, and I'm not positive, depending on the HOV lane where it is, there may be an actual meter that you can enter it. And
interesting.
I'd have to look it up. These were introduced probably back in, I'm going to say the 90s, 2000s, probably the 90s, and I don't remember from back then. Maybe they've modified it. I don't know.
I've never looked that far into it, because to me it's just being one of those things where if you made the lane change to enter it to safely make your turn, it was coming up, 5 car lengths, 20 car lengths, whatever that is, and you legitimately go into it, I just never looked further. And my evidence was always based on I watched them go past 25 cars, past the next intersection, and continue, and they never even got to make the turn because I pulled them over before they did.
Right.
Because, the excuse is, oh, I'm turning up there. When in Chicago, when I get from Toronto to Chicago, I'm going to make my right. The excuses, lots of excuses. What is this? Question. At Warden and Ellesmere, the signal suddenly went from green to blinking red. What do we do in such cases? Thank you very much for asking this, because I have come across a number of these intersections, thought to myself, what a great thing to talk about, and totally forgot to bring it up during the show. So let's talk about the phases and different types of flash patterns that automated traffic signals can go through. Obviously, we all know what red, green, blue, and flashing green mean. But there are sometimes flashing yellow, flashing red, and solid red. So what do we do? If it's flashing yellow in all directions, it means everyone's in a yield position. It's rare that it's yellow.
Yeah, it doesn't usually happen like that.
Some small towns will put flashing red in one direction and flashing yellow in the other at night. Very small towns, because that makes it yield for one and stop for the other. So a flashing yellow would mean yield, and a flashing red would mean stop.
From what I'm reading in your question here, I am assuming that the signalized intersection was running properly, and then either manually by a police officer or somebody that is about to be working on the intersection or the traffic lights has switched it over to flash mode, which takes it out of cycle. And in that case, or there's an error with the actual
Could have just broken.
electronics of the machine. They're defaulted. If something happens and there's a computer glitch in it, for safety's sake, they don't just switch off. The only time that happens is when the power goes out. But they will default back into a four-way red flash, and it will actually notify the company
For service.
that will come out and complete the service.
So the last one is four-way flashing is stop for all directions.
If it's green and it all of a sudden starts flashing red, then pull up. It's flashing, which means you don't have to sit there, but you can only proceed the same way as you would at any other flashing red light or stop sign.
Sadly, I'm seeing a lot of people confused about this, and maybe we'll have to do a dedicated video to put out, because flashing lights mean one car at a time. Stop sign etiquette, it's exactly the same as a stop sign, and yet I see 15 cars go through because it's a big intersection. What do you mean it's a stop sign? Like, people just don't care, or they don't know,
Right.
which is shocking because they should know. So blinking red light, treated as a stop. And then we go here. Okay.
That's a tough intersection to get through in a blinking red light.
No
though.
kidding.
It's a big intersection. It's on a hill, and it is sort of down in a valley with very poor sight lines. Tough one to get through.
Problematic. Carolina wants to know, is it Carolina or Carolina? Because I've known both. Okay, paying with Apple Pay in the drive-through, can an officer give me a ticket? And it's so funny that
If you use Apple Pay, then probably. But any other one is okay.
Samsung user there, right? I support the Apple Pay. It's not against the law in the province of Ontario. If it causes you to get into a collision because you're Apple Paying while driving, that's a problem because you caused a collision, not because using your phone in the parking lot is illegal.
So there you go. You said it there. This is private property. You're in a parking lot in a drive-through.
I've never seen a drive-through on the road.
No. So it's private property in Ontario. At start, you said it's legal in Ontario.
That's it. Yeah.
But then
Private
you clarified it as private property.
I'm glad you clarified my clarification.
There you go.
And where I was starting to go, but then, sidetracked, was that in Saskatchewan, a young man was pulled over and ticketed in a private parking lot for using his cell phone. At least that's what the news story said originally. I was in the parking lot. I was going to go to the drive-through. I had my phone out to get my coupons, and the officer on a motorcycle pulled me over and gave me a ticket. However, that is not what happened according to police. According to police, that particular person was observed on the roadway using their phone, followed into the parking lot where he continued to use his phone, and was then pulled over using the phone. Totally different set of circumstances. And I think the whole story is generally important.
Yes. And you know what? If that person, even though they posted it on social media, would go to court, they would get the whole story, and you would understand why you got a ticket.
Yeah, it's funny. We tend to bring evidence, and although video cameras and body cameras and things of that nature aren't required, even the officer testifying just to what they witnessed goes a long way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you allowed to stop TTC buses and give citations?
They let us stop anybody on the road.
Is that shocking?
Yeah. Like anybody.
I absolutely will issue a ticket to a bus driver, anybody on the road who breaks the law. There is no get out of jail free. And
I have done so before, and I have given tickets for TTC buses and vehicles in general being involved in collisions. They have a different procedure, an internal procedure, that when this happens, the driver gets taken out of service.
Suspended for the day.
You know what? They have a higher obligation. Everybody has an obligation to drive safely. But they have a higher obligation because they're a public servant that are driving a bus that's 10 tons and with possibly 30, 40 people on board.
It's serious.
The risk is higher.
And we want those people who are professional drivers to be even more cautious, because
everybody should be cautious, them more so, including us. we're professional drivers. We have to do the same thing.
and we're held accountable. Are motorcycles allowed to park anywhere, for example, on curbs in the case of emergencies?
Are you talking on sidewalks?
You threw me off with the in case of emergencies. I've never parked in an emergency. Listen, if you're having a heart attack kind of emergency, you pull over where you can. You call 911. That's a different situation. I can't imagine what emergency you are referring to. Like I had to deliver something. I had to run inside to get my keys. Like
And you're talking about on curbs. You're meaning like sidewalks. In no case are you allowed to park on the sidewalk.
a boulevard. There are permitted boulevards parking spaces in private property, which are generally speaking not going to apply to you. Like,
Right.
but in the city of Toronto, it's legal to park in any green pea spot on the road, not green pea parking lots, but green pea spots on the road without having to pay. So you can actually park there.
Right. And it is to encourage motorcycle use. They're more efficient. They can travel the city easier and less congestion.
I like motorcycles.
I like motorcycles too.
My motorcycle doesn't move anymore. It needs to move, but it hasn't been moving. Let's see here. Do we have to give cyclists the required 1 meter if there is a bike lane?
Yes.
Yeah. They don't have to use the bike lane, but just because they use the bike lane doesn't mean that you can suddenly run them off of the road. The idea is safety. And they are entitled to 1 meter, even if they don't use the bicycle lane. But it is an interesting thing. There are cyclists who don't use the bike lane. Maybe there's cyclists, and especially with the introduction soon, potentially of other wheeled electric vehicles that would become legal, those might occupy that lane. I don't know where that's going to fall.
Yep.
But what happens if the bike lane is occupied with slow-moving bikes? They are entitled to use the roadway as long as they stay to the right of the lane.
Yep.
And then you are behind them.
So no matter what, 1 meter goes everywhere except for private property.
Right. But you still have to be safe around them because you
Right.
can still be charged for
'Cause you
being
can't
unsafe.
run them over on private property either.
It's definitely, they try and dissuade us.
Yes.
How do you drive with a temporary license plate? How long can you drive with it? That's 10 days. Isn't that 10 days
10
for a
days.
temp? It used to be a temp sticker. Now it's a plate that has no sticker, I think.
So, yes. So you can either, if you're going to register it in the province of Ontario, if that's the destination, you will get a license plate that is only valid for 10 days. And after that, it still looks like a license plate, but we're going to catch you because we have automatic license plate readers. And on day 11, you're going to get the ticket for driving with no plates because it's not valid.
And then you're not driving.
Right. If you are registering a vehicle to travel from Ontario to outside the province, they will still issue the paper plate that goes up in the front right corner of your window.
Which gets you pulled over every 6 blocks because we can't see it.
Right. That, once again, is valid for 10 days. So either one of them, 10 days.
And I think you can,
One time.
there you go.
One time. So you get a maximum of 20 days. It is not cost effective to use a temporary plate to keep it going because it's expensive per day. It is very expensive.
Oh, for the rate. I hadn't even thought of that. The people who got a good deal on that was during COVID when they extended everything until a distant future thing. They just never had to renew. Their 10-day plate became valid for the extension, which is wild and crazy. John would like to know, is it true that speed limits are going to be raised on the highways?
They already are.
In certain sections that were deemed to be safe. It's not the entire highway. It is, again, sections. And I've been on them. I was shocked. Like I just do 100, and then people start moving even faster, and I'm like, what's going on here? Sure enough, they're 110.
So we've had this pilot program in effect for the last couple of years. July 1st this year, they expanded it to include an awful lot more of the 400 series highways around, including big sections of the 401, 417, things like that.
All the areas I don't go outside of my GTA, my Toronto. I will say this, pay attention to the signs. Don't assume that it's higher. Something else to consider, 150 kilometers an hour is stunt driving, regardless of whether or not you are in a 110 zone or a 100 zone. So when people are usually saying, oh, I'm good until 150 before I get stunned, not so,
It becomes 40 over the speed limit in a 110 zone.
Right.
The 50 over doesn't count because 150 is a maximum no matter what, no matter where, anytime, anywhere, 150 gets you the stunt driver.
Right.
ticket.
So people think it's 160 before they get stunned. I misspoke.
Right.
And no, it's 150 still. The truth is, no one should even get close to 150 because it's a ridiculous speed. And yet, every day, people get charged with it. Okay. We got, is that Blindo? Maybe, possibly. How lower below the speed limit can I drive, especially on the highway?
Well,
How
it depends.
low do you want to go? I've never made this a goal, but generally speaking, the safe bet is to understand that you don't have to do the speed limit, but you can't impede traffic. So there's some rational thinking that has to come in here. If you are getting onto the highway with the intention to do 60, you are a hazard to everyone else. If you're never playing, and there are some vehicles that just don't go fast. Old vehicles, like you wouldn't take a Model T on the 401. It's just a bad idea.
That would just be common sense.
But that's very uncommon.
If the conditions, the weather conditions, the road conditions, the environment conditions are such that to drive the speed limit is dangerous, then everybody traveling lower than the speed limit is perfectly acceptable.
And at that point, it's the normal speed for that road. And if everyone's doing it, it makes sense that there's a reason and it's justifiable. At that point, the person who's doing 110 when everyone else is doing 60 could in fact be the person who has a problem with police.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
So don't interfere with the flow of traffic is what we're saying,
But don't speed.
but don't speed.
And if you're going to be doing less than what the speeders are doing, stay to the right.
Now, provinces like Quebec, they have a maximum and they have a minimum.
I wish we had that. I wish we posted it so it was not a question at all. Because then anyone could do 60 if the posted minimum is 60. You can do 60. And it becomes understood. And I don't think there's an
And accepted.
unnecessary... Right. But that's the whole thing. It's communicated. If you live... Let's see here. If you live in Ontario but have a vehicle abroad, do you have to move the registration location?
No, you can actually have a vehicle registered to an address in Ontario with out-of-province plates on it, and the other way around.
You can?
With an address in Ontario, if you own a car in Florida, you can own that car in Florida, and you can have the address, the mail sent up to your Ontario address to pay your tickets, your fines, your...
Interesting, because you have a mailing address. So I at one point lived in Florida. I had to buy a car in Florida. You have to have a Florida driver's license. You have to be a resident, and to own it and register it there. And probably would want to register it in Florida because it's cheaper insurance and it's just generally cheaper. But that's your Florida car. If you bring that Florida car to Ontario as an Ontario licensed driver, because your Florida license is only for the purposes of purchasing, it's not a true driver's license. If you bring it here and you keep it here, you're supposed to register it here after a period of time. And if you're not, you could get that vehicle seized by the RCMP for not paying your taxes.
Yeah, I've actually done it before.
Me too.
Somebody who's brought a car across, still had it registered down there, but we know they've been living here for a while. Call the RCMP and they look back at the date that
The vehicle entered?
the vehicle entered, and if it's here for longer than a period of time, they're like, "Yep, please seize that vehicle," and you don't get back until you pay off all your taxes.
The one that stands out was a guy who had borrowed his daughter's car. She was in Florida. He lived here. He had a notarized letter saying, my dad's allowed to use my car in Canada, which is wonderful. And the deal is they seized the car. They wanted a $30,000 fine on top of the taxes. You had two options: pay the fine, pay the taxes, keep the car in Ontario, or pay the fine, leave, and pay the towing to the border. Those were the options.
Wow.
It was expensive. I was shocked. Peter says, can you, and by the way, the Star Wars cop is back. Can you address the 30% tint rule that's not in the HDA? It's the light vehicle and passenger inspection guide that outlines the rules for the inspection and is referenced by the HTA, and thus what is driving a lot of the information. And they're all government documents. Not everything has to be in the
Right.
the
So
form.
it's related to the Highway Traffic Act. So if you have something that's darker than 30% tint, then it's not safe.
100%.
And if it's not safe, we get under the Highway Traffic Act, we take your license plates off, and you have to go for a recertification. And if it won't pass that recertification, the HTA says you're not driving it.
Funny how that works.
It is.
What many people, and we talked about this before you got here, that 30% light blockage means 70% of light has to come through. So many people go and say, I want 30% tint. And the tint shop could give them 70% blockage, allowing 30% in. Depends on which manufacturer and which tin shop you're dealing with and how they float those numbers back and forth. 30% blockage, 70% tint light must get through. Let's see here. Here's an e-bike question. Can an e-bike ride on bicycle lane? Is it legal? I've seen many e-bikes going on bicycle lane. So that depends. If you go on to TrafficCop.ca, you'll see a link at the bottom for useful links, or a section for useful links, and one of those is legal riding in Toronto. And this is jurisdiction specific. So in the city of Toronto, you can be in a bike lane, which is different than a cycle track, and definitely different than a multi-use lane. So if you're in a pedelec is under 40 kilos, looks like a bicycle, exposed frame, happens to have battery, augmentation, no throttle. So it means you pedal and it helps you, but you can't just twist your wrist and go. That can be anywhere. Bicycle track, Sharo, the road, cycle track, multi-use lanes, anywhere a bicycle can go. If you have one that looks like a scooter, has a throttle, more than 40 kilos but under 120 kilos, that is something that cannot go on a cycle track. Cycle track is one that is divided by a barrier or color delineation, so you can tell that it's separate. Sometimes they have raised curbs, go up and down. Different. They cannot be there. So if you have one that looks like a motorcycle, it's limited. If you have one that, what else would there be? E-kick scooters, not allowed anywhere in the city of Toronto, can't be in any bicycle lanes at all, or they can't be anywhere.
They can be on your driveway.
Or in your backyard, or on your private something.
Yep. And if you're allowed to go into a parking lot, if you have permission to go in the parking lot, you can use it there. But other than that, nowhere.
Here's a really good one. What are the do's
They're
and
all
don'ts
really
of having a dog? They are good, but this one I think is really, really good, and it's from Red. Hi, guys. What are the do's and don'ts of having a dog in the car?
Oh, that one's rough. You knew that was coming.
I did. I was waiting. The biggest one is don't leave dogs or animals or people in a hot car. And any car is a hot car moments after you turn off the engine. The air conditioning stops functioning. Even if you crack the window, that one is by far, although not driving specific, it is about saving lives.
The best place for your dog is in the back seat and tethered in there or crated in there with the crate secure.
Yes.
I've seen an awful lot of people who think that Fluffy should be sitting on their lap because Fluffy doesn't listen very well.
Or doesn't like being somewhere else.
Right.
Has anxiety.
The problem with doing that, first of all, is you're not in control of your car because there's a dog in front of you that has a mind of its own, doing whatever. Second of all, should you become involved in a collision, that airbag's coming out at 200 miles an hour, and Fluffy is not going to survive it.
They're going to become part of you in a big way.
Yep.
DNA match. They're going to get just deployed by way of a 200-kilometer-an-hour explosion. That's probably going to unalive Fluffy.
So the third thing is, without them being tethered in the back seat, they become a projectile. So the first hit in a collision is the vehicle striking the other vehicle and then coming to a sudden stop. Everything inside that vehicle continues to move until it strikes something else. And if your animal or pet is coming from behind you and striking you or somebody else in the back,
It's going to hurt.
that is absolutely going to hurt and may actually kill the dog and kill you. So
While we're on the topic of things floating around that happen to have 4 legs or 2 legs, stuff. If you have stuff like school bags, computers, tools in the interior of your vehicle and you get into a collision, those things tend to fly forward in the direction of where the impact started, and those things can kill you. A school book that's 10 pounds on its own, traveling at 100 down to nothing is bad.
That force is so big, and I didn't actually realize that force being so big. In 2017, I was leaving here after a night shift going home. Somebody ran the red light. We had a collision, and I came to a very abrupt, sudden stop. The impact was so severe that my necklace that I was wearing at the time was outside of my shirt. It flew so hard that it broke the necklace and the chain and everything.
Get out.
And gone. I never find it.
Huh. I would have never thought of that.
Yep. So that was an object that wanted to stay in motion until it...
Well, speaking of which, and we're totally off topic. Well, we're on topic, but side rabbit hole. If people don't realize that when you're in a collision, you and the vehicle are traveling at a particular speed. Once that impact starts, bumpers and crumple zones, things are continuing to move and until seatbelts engage, you are moving, and then seatbelts snap, and really bad things happen.
Yeah.
And then even when you stop, your organs are still traveling at a high speed, and then they stop when they meet the front of your rib cage, and your brain, hits the front of your skull, and that's how concussions happen. Like, there's a lot going on. It's not a simple answer.
And that also happens to your animal as well. So
Yes.
take care of them if you love them. They may not like it, but do the right thing. Keep them safe.
And Peter, I'm trying to reboot the chatbot. We'll see if it kicks back in. But we are actually at 11:13,
Yep.
so we'll continue with what's in our chat already, and then we're gonna hit the dad jokes and say goodbye for another day. Let's see here. Why so many number plates are ripped? Numbers which are ineligible. I can't say it anymore.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. I'm reading it now. The word is being broken in my brain. Illegible. Thank you. Why are they illegible?
So are they allowed? No, they're not.
No, they're not.
You know what? There's a series of plates in Ontario that were really, really manufactured poorly. And no fault of your own, just by maybe going through the car wash or the sun hitting or something, they became delaminated. And the Ministry of Transportation realizes this and will replace them for free because they know it was a default in the manufacturing process.
B series.
If you continue to drive, though, without it, because maybe you're getting free 407, you know what? We're going to be all over that. And if I can't read it, guess what? I'm taking the plate because you continue to drive on it.
I see some that are just completely bare metal, and people get upset. I've spoken to people at gas stations and said, you should really deal with that. And they say, well, I'm not paying for it. And so I ran into one person. Actually, I was on their podcast, and we had that conversation. They went and they got theirs replaced for free because it was a B series plate that is absolutely covered, even beyond the 5-year warranty. But if it's any other series, 5-year warranty, and yes, if it's outside of the warranty and they refuse to accept the exchange, they may charge you $52. But it's cheaper than the $110 ticket you're going to get for driving around with it.
Yep.
Let's see here.
$110 for each one, by the way.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way. I would have just, I'm a nice guy. I'd give him one ticket. What if everyone around you is speeding and passing you? Do I speed up to follow the flow of traffic?
What if everybody jumped off the side of a cliff? Would you speed up to go with them? Maybe you would. I don't know.
Yeah, there are many people with many different answers to this question. But the
But
deal is
the law says you can't.
speeding is speeding is speeding, and you're not allowed to do it. There is no go with the flow of traffic law. There is a principle taught by traffic instructors or driving instructors that says you should go with the flow of traffic, meaning you should not do 60 when people are doing 100. But the concept does not include speeding. It includes up to the speed limit. And
Right.
people get confused and say, wow, everyone else is speeding. I should do it too because it's safer. My driving instructor said, go with the flow. I will say this, and we should talk to our moderator friend in the hallway, not Peter, but the other moderator who I've not confirmed if I can say their name on air yet. They used to be a driving a checker, a license, what's it called? Evaluator? I don't know, drive test person.
Okay, I have no idea who you're talking about, but
Just sitting out there. No, there. Driver examiner. Thank you, moderator, who is unnamed as moderator. They were a driving examiner. So I want to know, and maybe they'll come on the show or give us some background and what it is. Like, 'cause I'm told if you don't do 5 or 10 kilometers over the speed limit, they'll fail you,
really,
which is ridiculous.
But
Ridiculous
could be unsafe.
and illegal. But it's a good question. So yeah, no, you're never allowed to speed. Stay to the right. Let the bad drivers pass you on the left. We have this question here. Oh, nobody really speeds on. We're in the conversation now in the little chat bot on the side, and they never had that issue where people were really speeding. Because if you were speeding, you should be failing them, I would imagine. Okay,
I'm just about done. So
we'll wrap it up. We'll do dad jokes.
yeah,
Although there's 2 questions here. What is this question? What are the different options on getting a ticket? The officer suggested to request an early resolution. I did so, but later realized it means pleading guilty, any recourse. Actually, no, it does not mean pleading guilty. Okay, let's look at the options. You can ask for a first appearance with a prosecutor. Is it called first appearance or early resolution?
an early resolution. That's what they're talking about there.
So early resolution means that you can go and speak to them and see if they're willing to offer you a deal. That's what the early resolution is. And yes, if you take the deal, that
You
is
have to
pleading
admit
guilty.
guilt.
That is pleading guilty. If you believe you're
maybe to that offense, or maybe to the other offense that
a lesser included
could be a
offense.
lesser included.
So they might say, okay, instead of the speeding ticket for 30 over, we'll give it to you for 15 or 20 over. It's a reduction. It's a negotiation. So that is between you and the prosecutor to work out. If you do not leave with a resolution, if you choose to say, I'm not interested in that deal, you can continue to trial. That is still an option. You don't give up your right to a trial. So there's no recourse required. You go to your first appearance, you see what they are offering you, you take it or leave it, and go to trial.
The other option is you plead guilty right at the very start. You pay your fine, and it's over. It's done with. It is put to bed.
And the last option is go to trial directly, where you skip the option to negotiate and you go to court, where they may also give you a deal, or you can have a full trial. Trials are interesting, though. Many people want to not have the ticket affect them, do not want to be held responsible for anything, or believe that they're not guilty. And if you're not guilty, or if you're going to be putting in a position, or what is it called,
I don't know. What are you talking about?
Choosing guilty or not guilty is a plea of not. Yeah, thank you. If you're entering into a plea of not guilty, you're going to have a trial. You must have a defense. You can't just then say, I don't want a ticket. You have to be prepared to provide evidence.
On one occasion, while I was sitting in court waiting to testify, I watched another officer get up and give very good evidence about a speeding offense.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave evidence of the speed that the vehicle was actually traveling. It was much higher than the speed he actually charged the person for. He had reduced it at roadside to give them a bit of a break, but this person brought it to court as well and wanted to fight it. In the end, the person got actually convicted of the original speed and had a higher fine.
The fine amount on a ticket is is what we go with, but the truth is that the charge has a range, and the court can apply any amount that they choose within that range.
So the offense of speeding is speeding. The amount of the speeding determines the fines and demerit points.
Of the set fine, yeah.
But it doesn't matter. The offense is speeding. 1 kilometer over is still speeding.
I love the people who go and say, I wasn't speeding that much. I was only speeding by this much. And they go, you're found guilty because you just admitted to guilt. It's a speed.
Yep. Speeding is speeding.
1 kilometer over is against law. Okay. We are going to do the dad joke thing. So let's you can be the button guy. So
okay.
we have the not so good, the good, and the Star Wars.
The Star Wars, is that a new one?
There has been some Star Wars dad jokes because ASKaTrafficCop has a new calendar, and instead of
Yogi Berra
quotes, his Star Wars dad jokes, I believe that's how it worked out.
Okay.
I like this one already. ASKaTrafficCop's first dad joke. You gotta be right on the buttons. We're gonna try and go quick. So I crashed my Kia. Now I have no Kia.
I like it.
I like that Nokia
like
telephone. I thought I was good. I really
I like
that a lot. Okay. One second. I'll take this one off the screen. And we have, why aren't Tauntauns? This is Star Wars. Why aren't Tauntauns good at small talk? They don't like icebreakers.
I don't get it, so I'll just press.
Well, so 1 second. That's we'll do that one for bad Star Wars.
Okay.
So Chewie's the good Star Wars, and the Ewok is the bad Star Wars. Yeah, that didn't work for me. Not that it's bad. It's just I'm giving you a thumbs down from
didn't like it.
You can if you want their Mr. Moderator guy, you can come on for the. Hey, you're saying no. He's not saying anything. He's just giving thumbs down. That's just that's terrible. Okay. And he is the ultimate Star Wars. I've seen half his Star Wars shirt collection. I think now that's not even true. He's probably way more shirts. You have Star Wars shoes today, right? Yeah, he has Star Wars shoes and a Star Wars watch. You can talk. This is what you. I don't understand the silent treatment. Okay, moving on. I can remove that one. What's going on here? Dad joke. I heard there was an Elvis tribute band coming to town. When I called for tickets, an automated voice system answered. Press 1 for money, press 2 for the show. That's pretty good.
Yep.
So just a note, this is all ASKaTrafficCop providing dad jokes today. Nobody else apparently brought them to play. Okay. There's still more. I heard there was no, it's the same one twice. Okay. It's the same one again. Well, maybe we only have 3. Oh, here we go. Here's another one. This is a quote, though. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is only, change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. Margaret Mead. Was Margaret Mead the one from before? Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed people can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. It's amazing how punctuation changes the way it flows in a good way. That's a good one. And we see applause and thumbs up from Star Wars Cop.
That's definitely.
Is that a
That's a quote.
bum? It's
No.
a quote.
You said good. You said
It's
bad,
still good.
so-
It's true. Maybe we do a. That might be good. Or some people think that's bad.
Yeah, could be. Depends on where that sounds comes
It's
from.
true. Akela says, "How about children?" This is a question. Not even. Okay, well, this is a question. It's a Akela question. It's the only question he's asked today. How about children? 2 on an e-scooter riding around dense pedestrian traffic on private property. Honda Indy. I spoke about this because it was driving me bananas. There were a number of children zooming around, no helmets. They were under 10, in my opinion. One scooter had 2 people on it, 2 children on it, and they were having a great time, and I didn't see anybody fall. So what do we think about that? Obviously, it's
Not safe.
not safe. I think pretty irresponsible for both the kids and the parents, especially the parents.
Could be endangering other people. Should they crash into other people?
But is it illegal?
Is it illegal?
No.
No, it's private property.
And even if you want to say, well, that was a government property because it's the X or it's some kind of private, it was at a special event that was rented by a particular group. It was under their control. And could they have said something? They could have said something. Could they have gone in and said, it's trespass to Property Act, we're telling you not to do it? And then it could have been a situation but that wasn't what was going on.
Yeah.
So I was not impressed because I was concerned for the safety of all. We have a joke.
All right, last one
Last
because
one.
I'm out.
You're out. Why can't a nose be 12 inches long?
I know exactly.
Because then it would be a foot. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the participation.
I have shared that one with my family before.
I think you have shared that one with me before. But I think I thought you said something about rulers. They don't make rulers more than 12 inches because then it would be a foot. I don't know.
No, there is a ruler one that
What was the ruler one?
I can't remember what it is right now.
Whatever it was good. Thanks to everyone who came by, who chatted, who gave us stuff to talk about. That's what we're here for. We're here to help out and talk about stuff and things. Now, what I've been doing, because we have the technology, is I've been putting our recruiting video because I think it's a really great video. And if you've got friends and family that might benefit from joining or have interest in becoming a member of a great organization, show them this video. In fact, share with them the whole live stream and tell them to wait till the end. It's only an hour and a half. Watch this video. Enjoy. We'll see you tomorrow. And in the meantime, drive safe, drive sober, park legally, and smile because it generally looks good.
Just cause.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like it.
Have a great day.
Your future career starts with a vision. A vision of opportunities ahead, where you can see a path to a noble career, serving the city of Toronto. Where do you see yourself? Toronto Police Service. Apply today.